If a woman in a simple white dress walks into a five-star spa, would you greet her with a smile or with condescending eyes? This isn't a sociology question. This is a true story, and it brought down the most luxurious spa in Beverly Hills within just 24 hours. She wasn't carrying a designer handbag. She wore no jewelry. She simply walked in like any other guest, seeking a moment of peace after months of humanitarian work. But they didn't see her heart. They only saw her flat shoes. And then her husband arrived. Not just anyone. Christopher Hartman, the reclusive billionaire behind multiple medtech companies that have saved millions of lives. What happened next? It will make you rethink how we judge others based solely on appearance. Watch till the end to witness one of the most jaw-dropping turnarounds to ever unfold inside a luxury spa. If a woman chooses not to drape herself in luxury, does the world automatically see her as less? Late afternoon in Beverly Hills. Golden light poured through the glass walls of the Beverly Summit Spa, a place where each towel costs as much as a five-star hotel stay. Inside, guests draped in silk robes sipped matcha from crystal cups, their voices soft, controlled, as if they belonged to another realm. One untouched by fatigue, unbothered by gravity. The revolving door turned gently. A woman stepped inside. Isabel Hartman. No heels. No designer sunglasses. No bodyguards. No assistant. Just a soft white cotton dress brushing her knees, hair loosely tied, and a pair of worn-out flats with fraying soles. No one knew who she was. But every eye turned. Not because she dazzled, but because she didn't. A spa attendant frowned and whispered. Another one who wandered up from the yoga studio downstairs. The other scoffed. No. Looks more like someone here for a job interview. Isabel walked calmly to the reception desk. She spoke softly, her eyes serene. Hello. I have a reservation. My name is Isabel Hartman. Claire, the front desk manager, looked her up and down, not even trying to hide her disdain. Then, with a tone like a blade slicing through still air, I'm sorry. This is a luxury spa, not a charity shelter. At that moment, a chuckle escaped from the lounge. Then another, and another. The room filled with laughter, quiet but razor-sharp. Then a shrill voice rang out from the VIP table. Are we hosting a spa day for the unemployed now? Isabel stood still, silent, but unshaken. She had never needed to bow to anyone's gaze, especially not the eyes that saw no deeper than the price tag. The atmosphere inside Beverly Summit Spa began to shift. Gone was the scent of calming herbs. Gone was the soft hum of meditative music. All that remained was rudeness, carefully disguised in silk and status. Claire, the receptionist with platinum-perfect hair and a name tag adorned with diamonds, still made no effort to double-check the system. She looked at Isabel with a cold stare. Your name isn't on the list. Perhaps you're mistaken. There's a public lodge at the base of the hill. But Isabel didn't flinch. She smiled, still speaking with calm grace. I'm sure this is the right place. I booked through your official website. Last week, Claire's fingers floated slowly over the keyboard, deliberately slow. Guests in the lounge began whispering louder. A man in a Zegna blazer clicked his tongue. Looks like we got a fan from Instagram. A woman wearing a 24K gold facial mask scoffed and called out, not bothering to lower her voice. Not her fault. Someone should probably explain to her that natural beauty just isn't enough. No one stopped them. Not a single staff member stepped in to say, please be respectful. Because to them, Isabel wasn't worth protecting. Claire turned back with a twisted smile and said loudly enough for all to hear, I'm sorry, but someone like you doesn't quite fit our brand image. We have standards. And clearly, you've never owned a mirror. Laughter erupted. Someone clapped, as if applauding a comedy act. A pair of crystal glasses clinked. Cheers to couture and commoners. Still, Isabel didn't run. She didn't scream. She simply tightened her grip around her phone. Her eyes shimmered. Not with tears, but with a quiet steadiness no one in that room could comprehend. The calm of someone who had walked through floods, through plagues, and the razor edge of life itself. But they didn't know that. And even more tragically, They had no idea that the woman they were humiliating was the very reason this place existed. Claire leaned over the counter, her voice rising as if she were hosting a fashion runway. Let's be clear, this is a spa for Platinum Serenity members. And you, she pointed straight at the white linen dress Isabel was wearing, looked like you just fell off a cross-country bus. The room exploded with mocking laughter. Someone raised a phone, starting to film. A wealthy couple whispered, "Upload this to TikTok. Caption it. Simplicity gets kicked out of paradise." Still, Isabel's gaze never left Claire. She calmly pulled out her phone, opened her email, and held up the screen. "This is the reservation code, with full payment confirmation." Victor, the VIP client manager, strode in, shining in his custom-tailored suit. He glanced at the screen for barely a second before waving it off like a speck of dust. "Emails can be forged. You're not in our system, and we don't serve white dress mistakes." Then Claire gave the signal. A security guard stepped forward, tall, face like stone. His name was Ralph. He didn't need many words. Just growled, "This way, ma'am. Let's not make a scene." No one stopped it. Not a single employee objected. The entire spa watched as that woman was escorted out, like a disturbance, into the golden Beverly afternoon that somehow felt colder than winter itself. Behind her, sarcastic applause began. A group of guests chanted mockingly, "Out, out, out." Someone threw a tissue. "Take that to your next spa." Another woman shouted, "Next time, hire a stylist before making a reservation." Isabel walked down the marble corridor, her worn flats tapping gently against the cold tile. No one noticed. There were no tears in her eyes, only absolute silence, the kind of silence that clears the way for an earthquake. The revolving glass door spun open, greeting her with a breeze rolling down from Beverly Hills. She paused for a few seconds, pulled out her phone, opened a messaging app, and typed, "They erased my name from the list and my dignity. Can I borrow the jet?" She hit send, slipped the phone back in her pocket, and walked away. Without looking back, Beverly Summit Spa. The next morning, a light breeze rustled through the palm trees. The mineral lake shimmered like crystal, mirroring the clear blue skies of Los Angeles. VIP guests lounged in pure white clay baths, speaking slowly, leisurely, as if the world spun only for them. And then that sound, a deep, resonant hum, like a bass note tearing through the atmosphere. Unmistakable. A Gulfstream G800, its carbon-finished body gleaming with silver hues, descended onto the private helipad just a few hundred meters from the spa, etched along the fuselage in understated, icy lettering. "See, Hartman." No embellishment, no spectacle, just power, quiet absolute, enough to freeze every wandering gaze. Victor, the VIP manager, was chatting with a minor celebrity when he snapped his head toward the sound. Claire was mid-laugh, entertaining a visiting sheik from Dubai, when the color drained from her face. She stammered, "That's Hartman's jet. Christopher Hartman's jet." A motorcade of sleek black SUVs crawled up the winding slope of Beverly Hills, tires hissing softly over polished stone. Security men in black suits stepped out, silent, swift. Within 30 seconds, a human barrier formed, disciplined, impeccable, like a military drill they'd rehearsed 100 times. Inside the spa, guests pressed their faces to the glass. Matcha cups slipped from trembling fingers. And then he walked in. Christopher Hartman, CEO of Hartman Medical Systems. A man whose signature could rewrite healthcare policy overnight. 6'2", bespoke gray wool suit, hair tinged with silver, eyes the color of a brewing storm, steel blue with a hint of fury. He didn't have to raise his voice. He didn't need bodyguards to part the way. The air parted for him. He walked through the grand atrium like he owned the place just to stretch his legs. Each footstep echoed across the marble floor, not loud, but unmistakable, like a ticking clock for the arrogant. He stopped at the front desk. Claire stood there, smiling awkwardly, voice trembling like someone who had forgotten the password to survival. "And Mr. Hartman, welcome to Beverly Summit." It's an honor. Christopher didn't look away. He stared directly into her eyes. His voice was low, precise, inevitable. My wife was here yesterday. Her name is Isabel Hartman, and you threw her out like trash. The air inside Beverly Summit Spa thickened. No one breathed, not out of fear, but because real power had entered the room. Christopher Hartman didn't shout. He didn't slam the counter. He didn't threaten. He simply placed a black card with gold trim gently on the desk. Under the light, the words gleamed. Isabel Hartman, founding equity partner, supreme status. Claire froze in place. Victor stepped back as if he'd been shocked. Several guests were live-streaming now, hands shaking but unable to look away. Christopher calmly set down a black leather folder, embossed with the Beverly Summit logo. He opened it, flipped to the first page, a dense contract with a red mark at the bottom. This is the divestment contract, he said. As of this morning, my wife, Isabel Hartman, is officially withdrawing her 20% stake from your entire spa network. A woman gasped, unable to contain her voice. She was a founding shareholder? A man next to her muttered like he'd just woken from a trance. So yesterday, we insulted the woman who actually owns this place? Christopher closed the folder. His gaze now carried not anger, but a sharp, bitter disappointment. You didn't see a human being. You saw flat shoes, an unbranded dress, and you thought that gave you the right to humiliate her. He turned to Claire, each word slicing through the spa's fake luxury like a scalpel. If a woman needs to wear diamonds just to be respected, then it's you who needs reevaluation, not her. Claire broke down in tears. Victor stood there stunned, trembling. We didn't know. If we had known, we would have never. That's exactly the problem. Christopher cut him off. No need to raise his voice because his silence was more terrifying than a scream. When you don't know who someone is, you treat them like garbage. And when you do know, you kneel. So tell me, what kind of character is that? A pillar that only stands upright when someone's watching. No one in that luxurious room held onto their arrogance anymore. Claire, the same woman who just yesterday said Isabel looked like a job applicant, was pale as paper, lips trembling, but no words came out. Victor, the VIP client manager, stood frozen, his mouth twitching as if to defend himself, but no voice followed. Ralph, the security guard who had escorted Isabel out, kept his head down, staring at his expensive leather shoes, as if meeting anyone's eyes might cause his conscience to scream. Christopher didn't need to repeat himself. He turned to the assistant behind him, who held a slim tablet, paused perfectly at the moment Isabel had been forced out of the spa. The video was already cued, time-stamped, clear audio. Every face that had laughed at Isabel was clearly visible. Christopher looked directly at Claire. This video has been sent to the press. By tonight, all of America will see how you treated a woman in a white dress. Claire burst into tears. Please don't. I didn't mean to. I didn't know. That's the worst part. Christopher's voice was low, like a tide rising beneath the calm. You didn't know, and still, you were cruel. You weren't sure, and still you mocked. He turned to his private security team. With just a nod, Claire was escorted out the back entrance, the sound of her heels echoing in desperation across the marble floor. Victor was summoned to an emergency meeting where the regional director was already waiting to issue his termination. Ralph was ordered to surrender his key card and uniform on the spot. No apology could undo what he had done. Outside, the media had arrived. The story, "Woman Humiliated at Spa, Turns Out to be Founding Shareholder," was trending nationwide. The hashtag respect is not luxury was spreading like wildfire. Christopher returned to the front desk, picked up Isabel's Supreme membership card, placed it gently on the counter, and said quietly, "She doesn't need this to prove her worth. You need it to relearn what it means to be human." He turned and walked away. At that exact moment, a sound echoed through the entire spa, the internal alert tone. Temporarily closed. Beverly Summit Spa, once a symbol of surface-level status, was officially shut down on a day it never saw coming. The day kindness won. The news spread faster than any wind that ever swept across Beverly Hills. Within just 3 hours, The footage from Christopher's assistant's tablet had made front-page headlines across every major news outlet. One title echoed like a wake-up call. The woman kicked out of a spa turned out to be its founder. And this is how they treated her. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere people were talking. Clips that once mocked Isabel were now edited into damning evidence, exposing a society obsessed with appearances. Claire was removed from all spa-related media. Victor vanished from social platforms. And Ralph, the guard who once blocked the door, now found himself being interviewed by tabloids under headlines like, "I was just following orders. But now I know, simplicity doesn't equal worthlessness." And yet, Isabel never spoke a word. She didn't go on television, didn't give interviews, didn't argue or explain. Instead, she appeared somewhere no one expected, a community hospital in South Central, where she quietly donates medical equipment every year. She was still in her white dress, still wearing those flats. But this time, every eye that turned her way carried respect, not scorn. A photo of her, standing among orphaned children, handing out blood pressure monitors, head bowed gently, went viral with the caption, "The woman who taught the world that elegance doesn't come with a label." Meanwhile, Beverly Summit Spa released an official statement. "Following an internal investigation and public pressure, we are closing the entire spa network and committing to a complete restructuring based on human dignity." But it was far too late. Trust lost can't be reclaimed with an apology. 1 week later, Beverly Summit Spa, once a monument to luxury, now stood behind cold, sealed glass doors. Its gold-plated logo had been removed, leaving behind a hollow imprint on the marble wall. The grand entrance, once reserved for Royal Serenity members, now bore only a modest sign. Permanently closed. A gentle breeze blew. A dusting of snow blanketed the walkway. And then Isabel arrived, still in that same white dress, but now layered with a simple beige trench coat, her worn flats replaced by scuffed brown boots. Her hair was still loosely pinned behind her head, but her eyes had changed. No more suppressed pain, only the calm of someone who had won, with nothing but her dignity. Beside her walked Christopher. He said nothing, but gently placed a hand on her back, as if to whisper silently, "You did the right thing." They stood there before the place that once belittled her. Together, they looked inside, where the lights no longer shone. That silence wasn't emptiness. It was the stillness left behind when a prideful empire quietly crumbled. Across the street, Claire stood on the corner, hands trembling as she passed out flyers for a mid-tier spa chain. Her new uniform was no longer a luxury suit, but a mint green polo shirt with a printed promotional logo. She spotted Isabel. Their eyes met for just 3 seconds. Claire moved as if to bow to apologize. But Isabel didn't respond. She didn't nod. She didn't smile. She didn't turn away. She simply held that gaze, calm, without resentment and without pity. Claire looked away first. Her eyes are red. In that brief moment, she realized what she lost wasn't just a job. It was her last chance to learn how to respect a person, no matter what they wear. Christopher leaned in, whispering gently, "Next time, let's just bring the whole massage team to the private villa, all right?" Isabel laughed. That laugh, clear, soft, but infinitely deep, rang out across the cold Beverly Hills. The laugh of a woman who had been humiliated in public, but rose again with grace. Of a woman once dismissed, now walking like the very mountains bowed beneath her every step. And they left. No revenge needed, because justice had already been served through the very kindness the world once rejected. Some apologies come too late, and some people, they no longer need an apology, because their silence becomes the most powerful verdict of all. Isabel Hartman walked into that spa with a simple purpose, to rest. But they didn't see her heart. They didn't see the days she spent wading through floodwaters to save lives. They didn't see the children she once held in her arms amid the wreckage. They only saw a white dress without a label, shoes that didn't make a sound, and they laughed. They laughed because they believed someone like her didn't belong in their world. But when the jet landed, when Christopher Hartman, One of the most powerful men in the world stepped out. That world fell silent. Not because of the power he carried, but because they realized they had just rejected one of the finest human beings they would ever meet. This isn't just a story about justice. It's a reminder that luxury is not found in fabrics or gemstones. It's in the way you treat someone when you don't know who they are. And I believe, right now, somewhere near you, there's someone like Isabel. Someone dressed simply, soft-spoken, unassuming, but carrying within them a story so vast, you'd never guess it by looking. And the only thing they need from you is not admiration, just a little respect. Share this video if you still believe in kindness. Leave a comment if you've ever been misjudged or misjudged someone else. And most importantly, follow the Toch story. Here, we tell the stories that awaken the heart and stir the soul. Stories that help you see the world, not through your eyes, but through your humanity. And remember this, silence is not weakness. Sometimes it's the quiet strength of someone who is strong enough to forgive and walk away.